friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. I am so excited to do this project today. Oh my goodness. This theme, it's like a groovy retro hippie theme, is all the rage right now. It is the most popular theme right now in the party sector, and I'm super excited to teach you how to make it, including this shaker cake topper. Now, the way that I make all of my shaker cake toppers is without any foam. So there is going to be no foam here on the sides. The reason why I like doing it this way is that sometimes I feel like on the sides, when you do the foam, it kind of looks a little messy and not very clean and pretty. And you know, I know that the front is really what that matters, but if you're going to be selling these cake toppers, you want the sides to look good and even the back. So I'm going to teach you how to do this entire thing from start to finish. For this project, I am super excited to announce that I just released 3 additional colors to my cardstock line. Now, I don't know if you know, I'm assuming that most of you do, that I actually own my own cardstock company. I sell all of these glitter cardstocks and all of these plain cardstocks, but then on top of it, I also now have these 3 new colors. Look at how stinking gorgeous they are. So for this project, we are going to use the new iridescent holographic. Look at how amazing. And then also this silver foil cardstock. You are going to notice that it is super mirror-like. Let me take it out of the packaging for you. A lot of people over on my Instagram is saying that it reminds them of mirror silver acrylic because it is so shiny. There's no texture to it. I'm trying not to pick up everything in my office while I show it to you. There's no texture to it. It's super shiny. The same weight that you would get at any other craft store. It is cheaper than any other craft store on my shop, but the kicker here is that the back of this is white. If you have been buying your mirror foil cardstocks from the craft stores, you will know that it has a craft backing, and you really can only buy these in sheets of 8.5 by 11. Now I provide it in 12 by 12 white backing. They cut amazing. Oh my goodness, I'm so stoked to show you how to make this cake topper. So for this project, you're gonna need my cardstock. Obviously, for this entire thing, we are just going to be using my branded cardstock. You are gonna need a sheet of clear acetate. Here is a little maker tip. What I use is actually not acetate. These are clear transparency sheets that you can print on. I've never printed on them. I just know you can, but it is just a clear transparency that you would see like at schools. Same thing. They're a lot cheaper than buying actual acetate like from the craft store. So I have that. And then you are gonna need 2 different types of glues. So you're gonna need a precision craft glue. Now, in order to glue all of the layers together onto your acetate, you are gonna need something called universal all-purpose glue, or this is like rubber cement. It is a gap filler, but also it really does glue your cardstocks to this so it won't peel. I've tested a whole lot of glues, and you're gonna need something that has a little bit of a rubber consistency to make sure that it sticks together. The next thing that you're going to need for this topper is a little bit of filler for your shaker. I am gonna be using some chunky glitter that I got from Auntie Tay. The other thing that you'll need is a cake stick. These are clear cake sticks that I provide in my shop, but any other cake stick, you could use just a wooden stick if you wanted, but really you just need a stick so we can put this in our cake. Okay, so let's go to the computer and do a little bit of design work, and then we'll come back here and we'll assemble this all together. Oh, hello. Okay, so we are gonna start off with a blank window in Design Space. Mine already has what the design is going to look like, but you're gonna open up a blank window. Now, in previous videos, if you've watched them before, you do know that I say things like, here is what our design's gonna look like, and we're just gonna reference back and forth. But if you wanted to create the same exact topper as me, or the same exact whatever, you're gonna want to click a hashtag, copy and paste it into the images field, and then it'll pop up. So when I do that, I get a lot of questions like, wait a minute, I'm confused. How do I get that images? So I decided today that I was gonna show you how in the world, or what it is that I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna pull up, before we get started in the design, I have my channel right here on YouTube, and I'm just gonna pull up any video that I have to show you how to get the images. Okay, so let's go over into the pizza guy, because I do know I used images from Design Space with the pizza guy. And we're gonna scroll down here, and you see this is the description. If you click over here to show more, and then this entire thing pops down. Do you see this right here? It says Cricut images used. And then there's 3 listed here. I always list the clip arts that I use from Design Space in my descriptions of my video, just so you can learn how to do it yourself. Or if like, wait, I really like that bus and I want to use it, or just that disco ball for something else for another project you're working on, you can just reference back to the description of the video. Okay, so for this, we are going to just double click on just one of the images used, and I'm going to copy it. So Command C on my keyboard. And then in Design Space, I'm going to go over here into Images, and then up here in Search Image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a hashtag and then Command V, which is paste, and then press Return on your keyboard. And this right here is popped up for that number, and it's because for that particular project, I actually use this banner. So for this project, every clip art that I use for this cake topper will be found in the description of this video, and you can just copy paste, and then you'll be able to follow along with how in the world we got to where we're going. Okay, so for this project, you're going to load in a total of 6 clip art images, and you are also going to notice that some of these look way different than what we're actually going to use. Okay, so first we are going to start off with is the boho rainbow, because that's the largest thing on here. So what you want to do is just with the boho rainbow, I am going to insert a shape, and then I'm going to insert a square. And I'm going to drag this square over, and I'm going to unlock it at the very top, and I'm going to resize this to where it's just a little bit bigger than the actual rainbow, the original rainbow. And then I'm also going to do another one, Command D, which is duplicate, and I'm going to drag this down. So in my original design, you can see that there are some scallops here, and now that I'm looking at it, I really don't like those scallops, so I'm going to do it again, and you'll see why here in a second. But I'm just going to drag this down, and I'm going to unlock this, and I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller than that very edge right there. Okay, so very first thing you want to do is just take your rainbow, click back on your rainbow, and we're going to Command Shift G, which is ungroup. And then before we go into slicing, you're going to want to move this rectangle over till about the middle of my arched rainbow. Now selecting my smallest boho rainbow over here, pressing Shift on my keypad, and then also that rectangle, I'm going to press Slice. And then I'm also going to select the second layer of that rainbow, pressing Shift on my keyboard, and then that rectangle, and I'm going to press Slice. Doing the same thing with the third layer, going to come down here, get that third layer, Shift on the keyboard, rectangle, Slice. And then we're going to go to the last one. So we have that. Last layer, we're going to select Shift on the keyboard, select that rectangle, and press Slice again. So now what we want to do is delete this, delete this, delete this, delete this, this, and this. So now you're left with just 1/2 of the boho rainbow. Okay, and I did say earlier I had the circles on the bottom, and I've decided that I want it to be like a harsh straight line. So using this rectangle, I'm going to line it up to where I think I want it, and then pressing Shift on my keyboard, and then the largest circle, this one, and then Shift on the keyboard, and then that rectangle, and pressing Slice. Doing the same thing, we're going to click on the second layer, Shift on the keyboard, that rectangle, and pressing Slice. We're going to go into the third layer, Shift on the keyboard, click that rectangle, press Slice. Then for the last one, we're going to press, there is the last layer, Shift on the keyboard, and then that rectangle, and we're going to press Slice. Okay, so now what you want to do is delete this rectangle, and you're going to want to select all of these little like half circle things, and we're just going to delete that. So now you're left with 1/2 of a boho rainbow. It's not the colors that we want just yet, but that's fine. Okay, and you do see that in my design, it has like an outside layer to it. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all 4 of these, and I'm going to come up here into offset, And all I'm worried about, because remember, this right here is going to get hidden at a later time. So really all I'm worried about is the outside left portion and then that bottom portion. So I'm just going to drag this little slider bar over just like that. And you can see on here that it is like a little weird. Don't worry, we're going to fix that here in a second. So create the offset just the way you want it. And then when you're done, you want to make sure it's welded. I'm going to do some harsh lines here, just some straight lines. And then I'm going to press apply. So now we have this like weird line, right? We're going to go ahead and fix that. So let me zoom in real quick. And I'm going to insert another shape and I'm going to insert a square. Dragging this over and I'm going to resize this. So unclick this mark and I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller so it doesn't hang off to the left. And I'm going to just drag this over, lining up that right edge with the edge of my square. And I'm going to cover up all those like weird lines that we had. Once you have that done, press shift on the keyboard and then that offset. And then you come down here and press combine and then weld. And now it's all gone. Okay, so for this, I'm going to want it to be white. So I'm going to select it and then I'm going to press the color up here and I'm going to make it white. And I'm going to arrange this to the back. And now we can see our rainbow features. Okay, so for this project, I'm going to utilize the swatch books that I offer in my cardstock shop. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to kind of match up like what colors that I want. So for that big portion, I think I'm going to want my bubblegum pink. So I'm going to change this over into like a bubblegum pink. There we go. I like that. Okay, and then we're going to do a mint green. So we'll go and choose this and make it just a little bit lighter. Love that. Okay, then I'm going to choose my powder blue. So then for the next one, I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the light blue. There we go. Okay, and then the last color I'm going to use is this one right here. And I'm going to use light yellow for this. So I'm just going to click that yellow. Okay, and as I was playing around with all these swatches, the salmon color that I offer is actually, I think that is going to look really good all together. So I'm just going to click that pink back and I'm going to try and match it to the salmon. Okay, good enough. And we're going to zoom back out and I'm going to select all of these pieces right here and I'm going to Command G, which is group. So this is now our grouped rainbow. I'm going to set this over to the side and then we'll just work on the Volkswagen bus. So you'll notice that there's two buses here. We got this one and we have this one. I'm going to make this one bigger and drag this over to the left. And to the right. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to ungroup it. So Command Shift G, which is ungroup. And then if we adjust this purple, do you see how we are missing like the windows? And then in my design, do you see how I used like the holographic for that? So we're going to need those windows. So I'm going to Command Z, which is undo, get it back to where I need it. So taking just the purple portion of that van, I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate. See how this just popped up? So I'm going to come over here into contour and I only want the windows. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select everything but the windows. And there is some weird Cricut glitch that you can't preview your contouring. So I guess you're just going to do this as a hope and a pray feature, I guess. And I'm going to click out of it. Then what you're left with is the windows of the Volkswagen. Okay, so I've already determined that the color for me in the holographic, because it's going to matter at the very end when you go to cut this, it's going to be this like periwinkle bluish purple color. So clicking on just the windows, I'm going to come over here into the basic cut and I'm going to change that color over to match that original design. If you can't remember, I would suggest getting just a pen and piece of paper and writing this down. It will matter in the very end and it'll be less frustrating. And it's also going to be important here in a little bit when we're working on the acetate too. So I'm going to drag this over into my now ungrouped Volkswagen bus. I'm going to place in that window. And you can see this and this look awfully similar. So for this, I'm going to want this bumper to be silver, this mirror silver. So I'm going to keep that way. I want my very back portion, instead of it being white, I want it to be the same pink that I'm going to use for this rainbow. So just clicking the outline of that van, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change this over into the pink that we chose for the rainbow. And then I want the inside portion of this van. I'm going to click that and I'm going to change that over into the green that we chose right here. And let's do the bus instead of it being purple, because I did a periwinkle, my periwinkle that I offer in the cardstock shop. Did that for this, but I'm going to change it a little bit and I'm going to do the light powder blue. So I'm just going to click that and then the powder blue. Okay, I'm going to change these hearts now over the heart and flower. Let's do a light yellow. And then for that heart, I'm going to do pink. We'll do that same pink. Okay, and the only thing that is missing from this project now, you can tell, is that Volkswagen symbol or the peace symbol. That is where this van comes into place. So only selecting that peace sign, I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate, and then I'm going to delete everything over here. I don't need it. And I'm going to drag this back into my clip art, and I'm just going to resize this any way that I want. Love that. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it over to the same pink that we're going to be using. When you're all done with all of your edits, you want to select everything, and then you want to Command G, which is group. We're going to set that over to the side. Okay, and we got the disco ball here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Same thing we did before. You can see in my original one that there's no like lines in them. They are in the original one, no lines here. So just gonna come over into contour. Oh, and look, it all pops up. Design Space is so wonky. And I am just going to click on the stuff I do not want. So the things I do not want, I'm gonna click on. And then when you're all done, you're going to click out of it. And that is your disco ball. You can see that my disco ball in the original design has 2 layers. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and my Command D, which is duplicate. I'm going to change this over into the same gray that is on the bumper of the Volkswagen bus. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to change this over into that gray. Okay, and in the original one that we have, I'm going to go back over here into contour. And instead of clicking all of these right here, because that might be a lot of work and time consuming, I'm just going to come down here and just press hide all contours and then click out of that. See how everything went away? Now you're just left with like a whole ball. It's exactly what you wanted. So we're going to come up over here. And in my original design, I used my silver glitter cardstock for this. But then since I've been playing around with all of my mirror cardstock, do you see this? This is 2 layers of mirror cardstock. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I really like the dimension of it, but using 2 of the same pieces of paper, I thought was like, this is stellar. So instead of using silver glitter, I'm just going to use the same silver mirror. So I'm going to click that and then click out of that. Selecting both disco balls, we're going to align it to the center and then press group. So Command G. So now this is its own thing. We're going to move this over, just setting it to the side for right now. Okay, now we're going to work on the daisy. So what you want to do is Command Shift and G, which is ungroup, and we are going to delete everything we do not need. So I'm not going to use these leaves, so we're not going to use them. And then for the daisy, it looks like it is like this grayish white color. I don't want that. I want it to be white. So I'm going to come over here into operation. I'm going to change it to white. And then just to be matchy-matchy with the light yellow of my cake topper, I'm going to change the middle of my daisy over into light yellow as well. And then do you see how in my original design, it has an offset? And then if you notice in here too, it just kind of gives it like an added dimension. I'm just going to create an offset. So selecting that, we're going to come up here into offset and then just readjust this any width that you want. And I'm going to change this over into a rounded quarter. I don't think it really matters for this particular offset, but just in case. And I'm going to weld the offset and then press apply. Now I want this also to be white. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click white. When you have that done, just select all and Command G, which is group. Set that over to the side. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on the number or the age. You could do whatever you wanted. You don't even have to have this if you want, if it's your own cake topper. But I'm going to come over here into text and I'm going to insert a 1. And then I'm just going to make this bigger and drag this over. And then I'm going to come over here into font and system font. Okay, so actually the really cool feature about Design Space, and something that's relatively new, is that if you went to designs, you know, and you're in here and you're like, gosh, I can't remember what font it is. And when you come up here, nothing pops up. Sometimes it will pop up right here, but you can see it didn't pop up. I know that. I know it didn't pop up, the font that I used. So if you go back over into your original design, you can right click on the offset and then scroll down where it says image info. And do you see the font that's listed right here? That's the font that I actually used. This is a downloaded font that you can find on dafont.com. I will link it in the description of the video for you. So going over here, and it was called Abstract, and there it is right here. So I'm just gonna click that. And okay, and there is that one. Gosh, it looks just so weird. Here, why don't we just do a 3? That's better. That one just looked kind of funny. Okay, and do you see that little circle right there? I don't want that. So I'm just gonna go to shapes, and I'm gonna insert a shape. And let me just drag this over. I'm just going to insert it in the shape. Doesn't matter where you put it, as long as it's inside of it. And I'm gonna select both of those. I'm gonna combine and then weld. The reason why I did this is if you go back and you wanna try and get rid of that, this contour isn't highlighted, which is kind of a pain in the butt. So by adding any type of shape, selecting everything, pressing combine and then weld, what happens is if we click back on, we can press contour now, and we can get rid of that little oval shape. It's gone. That was super easy. Okay, so for this 3, I'm gonna change it over into pink, and then I'm gonna create some offsets. So clicking back on your 3, we're just gonna go up into offset, and we're just gonna do a little bit of offset. So I'm gonna do 1, still having that new offset highlighted. I'm going to go back in and press offset again, and I'm going to keep doing the same offsets a couple times. I want to do it 4 times, or have 4 layers all together. Since we have 4 in our rainbow, I kind of want to keep that theme together. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 4 colors in our rainbow, so it's all staying together. So the very last color is going to be, let's look at our rainbow. The very last color is like light yellow. So I'm going to go back up the very last layer. I'm also going to make it light yellow. And let's do the 3rd layer. We want it to be that powder blue. The 2nd layer, we're going to want it to be that mint green. Ooh, I love this. Love how it's turning out. Okay, selecting all, and we're just going to Command G, which is group. Okay, the very last thing that we need to work on to make the shaker cake topper what it is, why you've been here is we need to make this into a shaker cake topper. The coolest thing about this particular design, or the clip art image that I've used, it already has the shaker component there for you. So when you're working on shaker components, if you're doing it my way, which is the cardstock way, which is layers of cardstock that are glued together, you are going to need donuts. That's what I like to call these, donuts. If you're doing the way of like foam tapes or foamies, you don't necessarily need to do this step to make the layers in here. But again, we're gonna learn it the way that I do, and it's with the donuts. So we have our donuts already created. We're gonna need that very back portion that I use the holographic for. So I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate. And going back over into the original one, we're gonna go into contour and hide all contours. Clicking back out of that, I'm gonna change this over into that same holographic color that I chose for this right here. So the windows of the Volkswagen bus, that's what we're gonna use for the very back portion of our cake topper. Okay, so then here is our first donut. I'm just gonna line this up, and for my donuts, I'm gonna use a whole bunch of white cardstock. So I'm gonna make this white, and then I did 4 layers of this. Depending on how thick your cardstock is, there are some cardstocks out there that are like 110 pounds, so they're roughly pretty thick, or you could get like white craft paper, that's pretty thick. So depending on how thick of a shaker you would like, that's how many layers or donuts that you're going to need. I'm going to do 4, so I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate, and then Command D, which is duplicate again, Command D, which is duplicate again. So I want 4 donuts. Okay, selecting my entire arch that I have right now, I'm going to align it to the center. Okay, so the very next thing that you're going to need, if you're done adding your layers for your donuts, what you're going to want to do is go back over into the back of the arch. So what is the holographic? And I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate again. So I want this to be the acetate. That's my acetate sheet that's right here. So we're gonna change this color over, and I'm gonna do like a smoky gray color. This is where your pen and piece of paper come in handy. You're gonna wanna make sure and write this down. So when we go to the cut screen, we remember that that smoky gray color is our clear, and then the periwinkle blue color is going to be the holographic. Okay, selecting everything again, I'm gonna align it to the center. Okay, to make things look really cute on the very top, you're gonna want to do like a border, which are those donuts that we had. So selecting another one of those donuts, I'm gonna Command D, which is duplicate. It's gonna bring it up top. I'm gonna move this over, and I'm gonna change this over into that pink that we've decided we're gonna use for the rainbow. I'm gonna make it all match and all look good. And now what I wanna do is go into offset, and instead of making it larger, I want to go in. I want to make thinner outlines, decorative outlines. So instead of dragging this over to the right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this over to the left just a little bit. And same thing we did with the number. I want to make 4 of those in total because we're using 4 in our cake, in our rainbow. So I have the inset, the width that I want it. So I'm going to press apply. And then I'm going to go into offset again, and I already like the number that's listed, so I'm just going to keep pressing apply until I get, so offset, that is, there we go. We have 4 now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for the second layer, I'm going to want it to be green. Now we're going from the outside in. And then for the third layer, I want it to be the powder blue. And then for that very thin piece, I'm going to do light yellow. Ooh, and you know what? Look at how thin that is. It did not turn out good. Okay, so let's just delete that and we'll only do 3. It'll be okay. Okay, when you're all done with that, we are done with the shaker portion of this. So now that you have that finished, we're gonna Command G, which is group. Now that we have all the components of it, we're gonna rearrange them to where we think we're gonna want everything and, you know, kind of put it where we want it. So I'm going to take this one. Okay, so I'm going to bring myself over here, and here is this. I'm going to bring up my rainbow. Oh, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to resize this. Oh, I don't want it to be 10 inches high. I think I'm going to want it 8 inches. So let's do 8 and just press go. And then we're going to drag this over here. We don't need this to be this tall, so I'm going to drag this down just a little bit. Oh, and this one's to the back, so we're going to rearrange that. We're going to arrange it to the front, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller just so we don't, like, you know, completely get rid of our shaker portion that we've worked so hard for. Okay, and then I'm going to add this button. It's to the back. I'm going to arrange it to the front and just make this a little bit smaller. Okay, because I want all of these to be straight on the bottom, I'm now going to select everything and arrange it to the bottom just to make sure everything is lined up good. Okay, I'm going to add in my disco ball, so arrange it to the front, and I'm going to resize this. Okay, and I don't think I want that, like, that line there. I want to hide it from the inside the daisies, so I'm just going to rotate this a little bit to where it just goes like that. Okay, selecting this, arrange it to the front. We're just going to resize this. I'm going to hide that, and then Command D, which is duplicate. I'm going to add in another one because I want to hide this weirdness right here. So just like that. Okay, and then since we're doing 3, let's just do 3 more, or let's do 1 more. And I'm just going to add this in. I'm going to resize this just to give it a little bit more dimension. Okay, so when you have all of your components together the way that you would like it, what we're going to do is we're going to select everything and we're going to Command D, which is duplicate. And then what you want to do is you want to right click and combine and weld. This is what our back portion is going to be. And then flip it horizontally. And then what I like to do just for stability of our cake topper is I'm going to select it all again, Command D, which is duplicate. And I'm going to right click and then press combine and then weld again. It will make sense later in the assembly process why I decided to do 2. So now that we are done with that, I'm going to select all of these, And then I'm just going to save this. So I'm going to command save, and then I'm going to save as. We're going to change this over into 3. Okay, then we're going to come over here into make it. So when you're in the make it field, you're going to see that we're going to have all these little pieces popped up. Remember, the smoky gray is going to be your clear acetate. So the cool thing about when you're in the cut screen is you can move around objects to save space on material. So I'm going to come over here, and like this right here, we're going to use a lot of material, right? But if I take this and I drag this down, what happens is now instead of needing like a 7x6 sheet of cardstock, all we're going to need is a 4x6 sheet of cardstock. Okay, so when you get everything set up the way you want to, just press continue, and then we are going to connect to our machine, and then we'll get to cutting. Very first thing that you're going to want to do when assembling this is you're going to start working on your shaker portion first, just because that's the thing that's going to take the longest to dry. So starting at the very back, which is our holographic, I'm going to take some of the Precision Craft glue and one of our white donuts. Now, you are going to want to make sure that when you're doing this, especially if you're using glitter, fine glitter, chunky glitter, just if you're using glitter. If you're using the thicker resin charms, you're not necessarily going to focus too much on how much glue you're using. But for glitter purposes only, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have like a nice stream of glue around the entire project. Now, generally I just dot my glue, but for glitter, because you don't want it seeping out in onto your cake or anything else like that. So you just want to make sure that you have a nice stream, consistent streamline of glue throughout the entire donut. Then, whoops, we're just going to lay this down flat, and we're going to line up all the edges to our donut. Now, when you have the first one down, then all you can do is just put in your glue around just the donut, making sure that you have a consistent stream. You don't want there to be any gaps in your glue. And then we're gonna lay in our next donut, doing the same process. We're gonna just lay down all of our donuts. Okay, when you have them all glued together, just the donuts, we wanna make sure that everything is lined up correctly, but then you also wanna press down, making sure that you have a really nice seal around all of the edges. This is really important because you don't want that glitter seeping out the sides of your cake topper. That would be nasty. Okay, rearranging these, making sure that it all looks really good. You can see on the edges how it's lined up perfectly and there's not a whole lot of ugly there. That's great. Okay, then what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna fill your shaker. So I'm just gonna use my little spoon, throw in my glitter. Okay, to seal up the shaker, I'm gonna use this glue, but I always rebottle it into a smaller bottle just because the tip of this is kind of wide. So I'm gonna use this, and it has just like a smaller tip at the top. And same thing that with this glue, you're gonna want to do a steady stream of glue throughout the entire arch portion. Okay, it might be hard to tell, but there is a steady stream without any breaks throughout the entire portion of our shaker. Now taking our acetate sheet, make sure that it's clean. If it's dirty, you're gonna wanna clean this off before you set it down, but making sure that it's just clean of any debris. And then we're just gonna set this down. You don't wanna slide this around too much. So try and just take the bottom corner and line up as best as possible your project. And then when you got it lined up, you just wanna lay it down. Don't slide your acetate too much because the glue, you'll be able to see it if it starts sliding around. Then when you have that done, we just want to take our finger and press really nice and hard on our donut, sealing up that glue. The cool thing about this glue is that it's rubber cement, but it's also a gap filler. So if you didn't have a steady stream of glue, You are going to be having one now because it is a gap filler. So we're just pressing along the entire edge, sealing up our glue. Okay, now in order to do this portion, you still are going to need to use your rubber cement, but you don't need to use a whole lot this time, so you can just dab if you wanted to. I'm just going to do a smaller stream. I'm not going to be too concerned about it being like a free flowing stream or completely connected because our shaker is now sealed up. So we have that, and then I'm going to lay down the bottom portion. There we go, just pressing down. Okay, we can go back to using our Precision Craft glue, and I'm just going to put like a small little bead of glue. I'm not going to worry about doing a full stream because again, our shaker is closed. Using the full stream was really important when we were putting in the donuts, but now we don't need to worry too much. Flipping this over, and I am just going to try and eyeball this right in the center as best as possible. There we go. Okay, taking that light blue, doing the same thing. Just doing a little bit of glue. You don't need a whole lot. Flipping this over and just aligning it about to the center. Okay, because the glue is not dry, you don't want to pick this up and start moving around your layers. So we're just going to slide this over and let that completely dry. Then the same thing that we did before with the design process, we're going to just glue each component together first before we assemble it all together. So we're just going to go with the rainbow, just doing a little bead of glue, and then we're going to assemble all these pieces. Okay, so we have essentially all our layers glued, but now I'm going to work on the daisy flowers. So this is totally an optional step. I just like the way that it adds another dimension to our project. Again, totally optional and definitely, oh, poop. Well, guess we're only doing 2 flowers. So all I'm doing is I'm taking these fondant rolling tools. They're essentially for fondant, but we're going to use them for paper. And then I have this like foam mat. You can get like a mouse pad or anything that's soft. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these and I'm just going to roll my flowers, my flower petals. I'm going to roll them up so it just creates an added dimension to my flowers because daisies and flowers are supposed to have dimension. They're not supposed to be flat, right? So we're just going to roll this and bring them up and make them look super cute and 3D-like and real. Love the way that that's looking. So I'm just going to make them flat just a little bit, but they still are curling up. I'm going to add a dab of glue. I'm going to use my pickup tool and I'm just going to pick up one, pick up the other. And because I just ruined my daisy, I'm going to throw this one away. Okay, then I'm just going to press down, making sure that it's all good and stuck in there. You want to make sure the centers are nice and stuck on there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a dab of glue into each of the larger offsets. I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to line up my petals with the offset. Okay, so now we only have 2 daisies, but they look so cute. So we're going to just let those dry. And now we can go back over into our offsets that we created. Remember, we had one that was flipped horizontally, and it's going to be this one because the 3 was over here on the right. So I'm going to just set this one aside because we don't need that just yet. Then with this one, I am going to start gluing on my layers. Now remember, the very back portion of our cake topper is going to be this rainbow. If you needed help, you could just reference back over into your design space, and so it will help you figure out what goes where and how the dimensions work. So this one for sure is going to be not the flipped portion. And I'm going to add in a little bit of glue. We're going to line this up to the very right. Okay, now with our shaker, I'm going to roll this over, do the same thing. I'm only going to focus on the outside portion. I don't need to put any glue on the inside portion. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to line this up to my outline. Okay, here is our 3, and then I'm going to line this up. Now, because there is a little bit that's hanging over onto the acetate, I'm just going to take my glue bottle and I'm going to stuff it in there between the 2 layers, and I'm just going to add a bit of glue in a couple different spots on the back side of that 3, and then lay it down to where it'll really stick good on that acetate. Okay, doing the same thing with the bus. I'm just gonna add in, for this, because we are working on the layers, I'm gonna add in just this glue. We're using the rubber cement here, not the Precision Craft glue. And I'm just going to put in some glue, rolling this over and lining this up. Okay, disco ball. Remember, this is mostly gonna go on our acetate, so we're gonna use the glue that we use for the acetate. We're gonna use that. Just put a little bit, and then we'll just lay this down. Okay, same thing with this. Just a little bit of glue on the very edge, and I'm just gonna lay this down, and then doing the same thing, just a little bit of glue, and I'm gonna lay this down. Okay, so to add the stick in, I'm just going to take the very back. Remember, this is the one, it kind of has some stickiness from my mat, but then this side was the side that was up, and it's perfectly perfect and has no imperfections. I'm going to take some of the same acetate glue that we used, and I'm going to just put a little bead down, and then I'm going to take my clear cake stick and push it down in there. So if you are using a wood cake stick, you could go ahead and use hot glue for this portion, but hot glue doesn't really work well with the clear acrylic cake sticks. The rubber cement works best for it. The downfall of doing a clear cake stick versus a wood one is that this glue does take a little bit to dry, whereas like hot glue, it's very quick. But you want to just press it down in there. Okay, then I'm just going to take the same glue that we used, and I'm going to do a 1 go around through the entire cake topper. Then when you have that done, I'm just going to take a little bit more glue on top of the cake stick, and I'm just going to fill in just a little bit. We don't need a whole lot of glue, but just enough. Okay, being gentle with our still wet and drying cake topper, I'm going to line up this. I want to make sure everything's lined up good, and then you just want to press down. Okay, that is your finished cake topper. It is still gonna be wet and drying because we did put a lot of glue down on there, but look at how freaking cute this is. Oh my goodness. And I don't wanna shake it too much because it is still dry, but it does work. There is shaker stuff in there, look at that. There's nothing left on my table. There's nothing falling out. And then look at the sides. The sides are nice and clean and look amazing. On this side, looks absolutely amazing. And then even the back looks amazing. There we have it. All right, y'all, I sure hope I inspired you to make, and I will see you later.